Columbus Foundation, but advised by a board of advisors. The board of advisors is here tonight. If you're on the board, please raise your hand. You're wearing a red ticket here. I know you know you're on the board. This is an entirely volunteer board. No one is paid. We've got wonderful help from Steve Moore, from Doug Kreidler, and our job is to move forward how we make use of these funds, how these funds are invested. Jessica is with Boudreaux's here, one of our investment counselors, done a very good job. You can see our list of sponsors, and we're so grateful to the sponsors who stepped up to contribute to this event. And then one of the things Scott did, and you'll hear about more of it, but we not only have the fund where we make grants, and we've got our grant organizations here tonight, Dress for Success, Kaleidoscope, oh help me out, Jeff, where are you? And Bravo, thank you, of course. It was a given. And then we also have some of our scholarship recipients here too, because Scott brought someone to us who wanted to create a scholarship fund, so that's, the board actually makes the decisions on the grant making process and on who receives scholarships, and then we work to put on events like this every couple of years so that we can show the greater community with the opportunity that there is for you to create a legacy for the future. Because the legacy that we want to move forward is that quietly, as underwriters of organizations that will promote equality, promote the health and the well-being of the LGBTQIA community, that's what we're here for. Scott exemplifies that role that the Legacy Fund has in the greater LGBT community. I didn't get all the pronouns, I'm sorry. But
hello.
So for
hello. Hello. Works.
Thank you. I don't have I never was the loudest cheerleader, so you can see why. So anyways, I wanted you to, my executive team is Ed Chin, who is our treasurer, and Jack Miner, who's our secretary. I'd like Ed to just speak a little bit, because Ed is really involved in the financial side, works a lot with Jessica, and I'd like Ed to just say a few words about what the Legacy Fund has meant for him, and we'll move this program along.
So I heard about the Legacy Fund prior, about, I think it was 3 years. It was Greg McConnell that got me introduced to it, and then Scot Dewhirst followed with me on it. So at that point, I guess I was first time on a board, wanted to do something different, wanted to just, kind of take something that was already really, really great, had a great brand. Like I said, really wanted to really boost it, really wanted to expand people to get the exposure they truly needed. So that's what last 3-4 months, Jennifer, Jack, and I, we came up with this plan, and we're like, let's run with it, let's go with it. And I'm so excited that all of you decided to come, and the sponsorship, I mean, everything was just amazing. I couldn't have asked for a better team to work with. Everyone on the board's been awesome, so thank you so much for coming.
So as we do at events like this, it's important that we recognize the support of our elected officials. My colleague, Lisa Sadler, on the 10th District Court of Appeals, and a former colleague of mine and dear friend, Eric Brown, who's on the Columbus City School Board. And a dear, sweet man who has given his life to public service, Ted Strickland, former governor. And Megan Kilgore, our city auditor. We're very proud of her as city And Kristen Boggs was here earlier to give us a commendation from the Ohio House of Representatives, and Ron O'Brien, our county prosecutor, was here as well. So let me give you, and I don't think I missed any elected official. I had specific sign-ins when you came in. Okay. And because we're a 501c3, connected with a 501c3, we can't get into the political side and recognize candidates, but there are some candidates here tonight. I mean, male candidates, okay? So we have a commendation, and I won't read you the entire thing, but this is impressive. It's signed by the members of all of the City Council of the City of Columbus, and what great support for our community here with our elected officials. And this one is to honor, recognize, and celebrate Scot Dewhirst as the honoree this evening. And it really recognizes what he's done through his law practice, his founding father helping conceive of the Legacy Fund, and his quiet stewardship of the process of the funds. And there's a lot of love for him in here, Scott. And then, fortunately, with things have changed so much with the advent of the Obergefell decision. Now, many people in this community can say they understand what it's like if you have to go to pick up your kids. So Kristen Boggs could not stay because she had to go pick up her kids. So she has given us a very nice commendation from House District 16 from the Ohio House of Representatives, and this is for Scot Dewhirst. And she actually talks about your legal acumen too, Scott. So it's she's an attorney. She recognizes it, and so these are things that you'll have as part of our recognition for you this evening. And she's sorry that she could not be here. So at this point, I also want to make sure that you notice the sponsorships. They've been flashing on the screen, on the PowerPoint, but they've also been on signs throughout here. And we really appreciate those people who stepped up to sponsor for this evening, because this is going to go into our fund. This is going to create a further legacy, and we very much appreciate it. So I would like for Sandy Anderson to step forward and...
Here.
Yes. And she's got a few comments to say.
Thank you, Your Honor. May it please the court. Oh, what a night, Scott. What a great night. What a great bunch of energy in this beautiful space. And I want to thank you on behalf of the board for joining us to honor your friend and mine, Scot Dewhirst. What a great evening. Scot Dewhirst.
Yeah.
Dare I say, the Scot Dewhirst. Leader, advocate, counselor. He has focused on representing LGBTQ clients since 1988. Ask yourselves where you were in 1988. Some of you weren't born yet. He is not just a founding father of the Legacy Fund, he is a nurturing and helicopter parent. He served on the Legacy Fund board for 15 years, including as multiple terms as chair and co-chair.
With you?
With me. As you heard from Judge Brunner, his clients established the Legacy Fund's signature scholarship program, the Howard T. Short and Burdette Augsburger Scholarship Fund, which by the end of this year, I think will be supporting upwards of 40 college and graduate school scholarships. That is the definition of paying it forward. That is the definition of legacy. His gifts to our community are legion. He was the first person to host the Kaleidoscope Garden Party at his home in 1997. He has, over the years, provided pro bono representation to, I don't know, Stonewall? And other clients, including the Columbus AIDS Task Force. He has created programs and materials to assist LGBTQ senior citizens, those with Alzheimer's. He has given countless public speeches to organizations on topics relating to our community. He has a busy law practice, as his colleagues and partners here know, as a founding partner at Arts Dewhirst and Wheeler. He's a well-known mediation expert, a respected law professor, co-founder, co-director of the Center for Dispute Resolution at Capital University School of Law. And let me just say, Scott said he and I have served as co-chairs together. Let me just say this. If you ever have the chance to serve as co-chair on anything with Scot Dewhirst, just do it. You know what? Two things. One, it's the easiest gig in the world because he does everything and he does it so well. And the second thing is you get the special opportunity to watch a leader at work that blends the special skills of looking down at the details and also up at the dream and the vision and the mission. Just a perfect blend. And for the Legacy Fund, Scott has always led by his example, with his considerable skills and his not just passionate, but compassionate heart. And so I am so pleased to join all of you to honor Scott tonight. And so now we have a special video presentation, which I hope embarrasses him, because that's yeah, so that's exactly. So please enjoy the special video we put together for Scott. Thank you.
And I've known Scott for more than 35 years.
My name is Karen Cookson, and as near as I can figure, I have known Scott since the early 1980s.
My name's Sandy Anderson. I've known Scott for, I'm going to guess, at least 20, 25 years.
My name is Steve Schellenberger, and I have known Scot Dewhirst for, I have absolutely no idea, for a long time.
He was one of those guys that when I first met him, he instantaneously became my big brother.
We originally met, he hired me for my first legal job, and he was my boss. He then became my mentor, and out of that grew a long-term friendship.
Well, I tried to think of something that would be funny, because it's always good to start off with a funny story, but there aren't any of them I can tell you. So we'll pass on that.
He was a mentor. I looked up to him as someone to say, here's someone who demands respect, gets respect, yet still speaks his mind.
There's a phrase, pro bono work, and in the legal profession, that is giving free services, doing legal work for free. And pro bono is actually comes from a Latin phrase meaning for the public good. So over the years, Scott has given countless hours of free legal work to Stonewall, to the Columbus AIDS Task Force, to other organizations.
Every organization that I'm aware of in the gay community, Scott has donated his time to do their bylaws, look at their 501(c), set up their things. And in our community, there's a lot of people that we recognize because they're loud.
The quiet activist, he doesn't really ask for anything. He doesn't ask for awards like this one. He doesn't ask for publicity. He just does it because it's the right thing to do.
Scott Dewhirst has been consistently supporting the gay community for over 30 years. So you don't see him out there loud. He's probably the strongest of all of us in what he's really given to the community.
Is when I was on the board of Kaleidoscope. I was over at his house after he just finished the garden in his backyard. And we were talking, and I was kind of saying, we need to raise some money for Kaleidoscope, and I really don't know what to do. He's like, why don't we have a party in my backyard? What the heck? And I said, well, what are we going to do? What are we going to call it? And so that's the first garden party for Kaleidoscope was, I think, around 1997 in Scott's backyard. And then when it was a pretty good success, he said, you know what? we got to find the next people. And so he was instrumental in continuing to line up the early people. And today it continues, I think, to be a big success for Kaleidoscope.
Said he's one of the founding fathers, in fact, a nurturing father, maybe even a helicopter parent of the Legacy Fund.
It's his turn to be recognized, and he would never ask for this. This is something he's so humble that he wouldn't ask for this, but he deserves it.
It's incredible for Scott to be surrounded by so many beautiful people. And I think it's incredible that we have the opportunity and the honor to share his life and his accomplishments and his presence. I said a lot of very meaningful things during that recording, and the part that I was really crying they cut off, so I'm glad. But I stand on the concept of there are a lot of us that don't get recognized for the things that we do. And Scott continues to do things that are just amazing in his own silent, consistent position. And just by you being here, you are just further evidence of all of the lives he has touched. And we all appreciate that. So tonight, Scott, this is your night. We have an award, as always. The glass thingamajob that you can the dust collector and all those kinds of things. But it's beautiful, and it's a crystal, and it's just like him, a shining light. So I'm going to pass this over for him, and we'll see how far I can go without crying.
I'm quite humbled already, and I'm tearing up. So most people, when they think of humble, I know some of the ones that would know me best would say, huh? That's him we're talking about. And the other joke is that, and I'll try to be brief tonight, is like whenever I make a speech, they have to send two people, me and a person, to pull me off the podium when I'm done talking. So I'll try not to go too far. But I am humbled and honored to be here. Nothing has been more of a rewarding experience in my life than working with the Legacy Fund and helping to set up the Legacy Fund. We started this in 1998. Spent 2 years of developing the process. Started the organization in 2000 with the extreme support of the Columbus Foundation. We'll be blunt, we were looking for an organization to affiliate with, and we thought, what better than the Columbus Foundation? Would they want us? This was 2000. Would we want them? Would we have a good relationship? It has been spectacular. And Doug, who's here, Doug Kreider, the CEO of the Columbus Foundation, thank you, Steve Moore, who has been our support. You probably took flack from taking us on, I'm sure at the beginning, from some of your long-term funders, but it has been a wonderful experience for us. So we are a self-supporting, if that's the word, part of the Columbus Foundation. We control our own funds. We have our own investment company. We make our own grants, and they support us 100%. What a perfect relationship. So we use their 501c3 status as part of this, and it has been a tremendous partnership between us. So thank you, the Columbus Foundation. We also did it because it gave us instant credibility. And that was the whole purpose of the Legacy Fund, The goal of the Legacy Fund was not to compete with any of the organizations for funding in their community. Our job was to fund them, so we set up the endowment fund, and many of our initial board members gave hundreds of thousands of dollars to the endowment to start this process. And they're here tonight, and most of them, you don't know that they've done that. Hundreds of thousands of dollars to set up our endowment fund so that we could then use the interest from that fund to fund our grants to the community. We only use the interest. So whenever, and we don't try to raise fundraisers, we only do this, even though we charge tickets now, it doesn't raise that much money for us in the big picture of things. So we look toward long-term gifts. If you want to give gifts, great, we love that. I'm not on the board now, but I'm still a promoter of it. But we look for endowments. We look for, your contributions through your estate plan. So if you die, we get part of it. From that perspective, now think about it though. You don't have to give us anything now. But you can also give us 10% of your life insurance. You don't have to give it all. If you have a qualified pension plan, IRA or 401k, when you die, you got to pay tax on it. Your heirs got to pay tax on that fund, the income tax. You give it to a charitable organization, there's no tax. So you give a part of that fund, even a part of your retirement fund to the organization, you have saved significant tax, and you probably gave an extra third of your money that would have gone to the government. And that's what you get by charitable giving. If you want to set up something specific, the Value of the Columbus Foundation, Steve Moore, will work with you and set up that program with you that works to your benefit too. So look for those kind of issues, and we look for the long-term funding. We've always said that our endowment will not get to its peak to 20, 30, 40 years. But at some point we're going to have a lot of money. Now at some point, and then we can give more. I mean, we got a lot now, but we can give more. And now we thought a number of years ago, we started thinking, gee, everything's turning around. Don't Ask, Don't Tell was repealed. Trans members could serve in the military. We had marriage equality. Will we become obsolete? Well, we're back on it again, and we need to keep working as we go forward. So that's my initial plug. Now, I want to share this award. We talk about me being a humble person working for 40 years, and I have. I've not done it alone. I've done it with other people. And most people, I try to alert some of them that I'm going to do this to them. Nobody has to say a word, but I'm going to call people up to me. And the first persons I want to call up are Steve Schellebarger and I've only got basic notes here, so I'm winging it as we go through here. This was a joint effort over the last 10, 20, 30, 40 years. I can't take total control of anything that I've done. It's only been with the team of all of these people. These two first couples are previous winners of the Legacy Fund Honors Award. Last award 3 years ago was the Ohio State University, and we actually did the award ceremony in Ohio Stadium. And we're now pleased to be here in this wonderful center at Stonewall. Steve Schellebarger is probably Mr. Everything to all of us. I don't think there is a single thing that's happened in this city over the last 40 or 50 years that he's not been a part of. He actually founded and was part of the founding father of the National HRC, Human Rights Campaign Fund. One of the largest lobbying organizations now in Washington, D.C. with their large building. He started this. He's been a part of every organization. He's been a funder of Legacy. He was an original founder of the Legacy Fund and served on the board for many years. He's been my dear friend for many years. He's had a good life and a tough life, a school teacher. He lost 2 long-term partners to HIV. And he continued. in the community, so thank you. Chris and Gloria, a long-term couple, founded Bravo, Buckeye Region Anti-Violence Organization. They dedicated decades of their life to this as their sole life's work. Bravo has now just recently been acquired by Equitas, and Chris and Gloria are no longer working with them, but what, 30 years for Bravo? 22 years.
22.
And Gloria was the executive director. Chris was president of the board, you know, doing everything during that period of time. Bravo basically represents people who have been victims of gay violence, and they advocate for them, they usher them through the system, they support them, they help them. They were very active in the National Coalition of Anti-Violence Programs across the country, well respected. The two people that I have the ultimate respect for. Chris Kozad, you've heard of the Breakfast Club, maybe not. The Breakfast Club is an organization that is kind of a gay emergency room. It started in the early 80s when there were like 5 of us, you know, that would go to the Breakfast Club, organized by Chris. And the key was, if we've got a crisis in the community, what do we do? You know, how do we respond? Who do we talk to? And there was no real organization and not a lot of organizations working back then. And Chris headed that organization and put it together back in the early 80s. She's still doing it in 2019. She's on the mayor's cabinet as a liaison to the gay community. So these women have changed our lives in this community, and they are my dear friends. So thank you both. Please join us. We've heard from many of them already. People who have led us in our community over the years. Sandy Anderson first, the first woman president of the Columbus Bar Association. In 1996. Since then, 8 additional women have been elected president of the Bar Association. A 30-year attorney and partner at Voorhees, one of the largest law firms, finishing her career a few years ago as Chief Deputy Legal Counsel and Assistant Vice President at Ohio State University. A founding father of the Legacy Fund, a board member, co-chair with me, a person who is led by her recent member of the Board of Trustees of Ohio University, her alma mater. She's a person who has also been quiet, but she is led by her example. And she is led by her wise and quiet counsel, where she would say, let's think about that. Do we want to do this? And she, in the legal community, she is so well respected. And well respected because of the quality of the life that she has led and the example of her life. Not to scream it out, not to scream out who she is, but by living by her example and her qualifications and her quiet dignity. So thank you for everything you've done, Sandy. Bill Johnson and Karen Cookston, Republicans. But the example of, and I say that with love, and they're a part of our community, and they're an active part of our community, and they show how we can live with diversity, and they're totally respected in our community. Bill is the CFO and the chief administrator of the West Ohio Conference of the United Methodist Church. What a challenge he has, and he fights it from the inside, and what a wonderful person to have there doing that. Karen, who is a principal with Ameriprise Financial. Her clients love her from that perspective. She's done it for years. They trust her from that exclusive perspective. I'm being honored for being on the board for 15 years. Karen was a founding member of the Legacy Fund. She's been on the board for 19 years. And she's still on it. The last founding member of the board of the Legacy Fund, serving many terms as chair, in that board. Without her, we wouldn't be where we're at. So thank you, dear, for all of that. Tom Brody, and I think Mary Jo Hudson, are you here? Yes. Would you please join us?
I was on Facebook Live, so I had to shut it down. Wait.
Is Mary Jo here? Okay, I was going to honor Mary Jo too. Two people who have been a part of everything. Mary Jo, very quickly, our first elected member of Columbus City Council, elected to the Columbus School Board, served as the cabinet principal for the Department of Insurance, was the co-founder of the fundraising effort to build this center, along with Tom Brody. Tom Brody, Mr. Pizza Man, I call him. We've had lots of pizza over the years from Donato's, the Brody family. Tom's been a part of everything, and you don't know it. He was a founding member of the Legacy Fund, a founding funder of the Legacy Fund. He was a founder of Equality Ohio. He was the chair of this fundraising event to build this $3.5 million building. We wouldn't have accomplished things. You don't know this about this man. We wouldn't have accomplished things in this community without him. So thank you, sir. Our legal eagles here in the domestic world, Tom Odessa, Leah Masucci, and Carol Fay. You think we've got marriage equality? We do. But these three domestic attorneys, who I all know well, and two of them whom I work with, are the people who've protected your rights for the last 20 and 30 years when we didn't have marriage equalities. When they were trying to convince the courts on how to treat our families and protect our families and create joint partnership agreements and deal with breakups of relationships, that there were no divorces because you weren't married back then, and creating shared custody agreements so that if one person was a biological parent, what about the rights of the other parent? How do we establish those rights? Carol and Leanne actually took one of these cases all the way to the Ohio Supreme Court and won it. Others work clearly in the area of surrogacy. So how do we create our families? We can't do it in the traditional ways, you know, and how do we protect the rights of both partners when neither might be the biological parent, or one might be and the other might not be? There are so many ways to do that, and you want to do it the right way, you know, from that perspective. And these are the people that have done it. They've convinced the judges, you know, which they had to do on how to do that, and they still convince them all the time. Now it changed when we have marriage equality, you know, and we have actual marriages, you know, just some people don't even accept that at this point. So they're fighting these battles every day in the courts. Thank you so much. Please join me. My dear friend, my law partner, he gave me credit for the Kaleidoscope Party. He was one of the first elected presidents of the board of Kaleidoscope, and he was serving in that position in 1997. Doesn't look like it. And he said, how are we going to raise money? And we said, okay, let's do a garden party. You know, so he was the person responsible for that. We had the garden party. We actually gave an award to Angela Pace for her coverage of our community in a positive way. And she was there and did a whole story on the program. This started the garden party process. So Terry, without you, and he's been on the board of Stonewall, he's been an officer of Stonewall. He works in the area of labor and employment law in the gay community and protecting your rights from that point of view. So thank you for everything you've done and for being my friend and for letting me be the godfather of your wonderful daughter's son. Is Jason Bradley Krause here? Jason, please come up. Husband of our beloved Chris Bradley. Thank you. If you've not seen here, we've got all of Chris's ties that Jason has donated that you can bid on. There is a Donald Trump tie. I won't be political, I'm sorry. So, get a legacy from Chris. But I want to honor Jason for being a part of this and for your wonderful husband, who was, by example, I think one of the most important parts of our community. Thank you very much. We all know Chris Bradley. He served how many years on air? 20 years in Columbus. Got married, adopted 2 children, was open about it on TV. I think gave a wonderful example to our community on that our community is normal. Our community can be a part of things in a positive way. And thank you for sharing it with us. Jimmy Beal. Of the Columbus Public Schools. You know that her job is to liaison among all the Columbus Public Schools and to support our gay students in the high schools. This is our future. You know, we're the old guard. Look at us. You know, we need the new guard. Well, one of my honors was to sponsor a number of students because I want to trade this forward. So will all of our Columbus high school students stand up? You are our future. We are the present and the past, you know, but we need to liaison, you know, with our younger generation and make this an important part of our world. So you are a part of that world. So thank you for being here, and thank you for all the work that you do, Jimmy. I have to recognize our allies. With Eric Brown, Lisa Sadler, and Ron Fuller, please join us. Without our allies, we wouldn't be here. And that includes Jennifer Bruner, who is the president of the chair of our board and is one of our strongest allies from this perspective. I got to share a few stories, and I'll probably embarrass these very important people in my life. Marilyn Brown was going to be here, Eric's wife, Franklin County Commissioner. I think she's been at every legacy event. Eric's been at every legacy event. Did we give them tickets? Did we invite? No. They came because they wanted to be here, because they supported our community. Thank you. A story about Eric that I don't even think he knows. When he was chief, and this is the ex-Chief Justice of the Ohio Supreme Court, ex-Court of Appeal, ex-probate judge, municipal judge, common pleas judge,
Our judge.
and current member of the Columbus School Board. Changing hopefully our school system. Thank you for your service. But at an earlier legacy event, when we were awarding some scholarships at the legacy event, when we were honoring, I believe, Steve, we had given a scholarship to a graduating high school student. And the student called me and said, and we invite the family to come. And the family wouldn't come because there was dissent in the family. Eventually, the father agreed to come. Reluctantly, the mother refused to come. And I think the father thought that he was going to get into a debt of iniquity, of degenerates, because that's how he viewed the gay community. And he comes into, and this is when we did the event at the Columbus Foundation. And he comes into the beautiful offices and gardens of the Columbus Foundation. And so I immediately made an attempt to talk to the father as the chair of the event and bring some normalcy and legitimacy. And as I'm talking to the father, who walks up but the Chief Justice of the Ohio Supreme Court. Well, I never miss an opportunity. And I said, Dad, could I introduce you to the Chief Justice of the Ohio Supreme Court? And the father's mouth dropped. I don't know if you remember this. And you spent many minutes talking to him. I eventually invited and introduced the father to the mayor and 4 members of city council who were there, and the police chief. And the next day, the child called me and said, wow, you should have been at my house that night. Allies make a difference. Thank you. We appreciate you. We can't do this without you. A sitting judge on the Court of Appeals since 1992. One of the longest serving judges. Look at her. She's been a judge in Ohio for 27 years. I think probably the longest serving judge in the state of Ohio. One of my dearest friends for 40 years. And has supported me in every way possible. When I needed to go dancing in the bars when I was in the closet, she was with me. I was a little nerd bomb, in attest to this, in high school, bullied nerd bomb kid in high school. I went back to my 25th reunion and took Lisa as my date. That was 25 years ago, since I'm getting ready for my 50th reunion. She was on my arm, and I was taking advantage of that. I was voted the most changed in the class. She has been my stalwart. She calls me, as many of you know, I'm going through some health problems. She calls me constantly to look out for me and take care of me. She's been my dearest friend for 40 years, and thank you. With his wife Donna, celebrating their 54th wedding anniversary today. He was my professor in law school in the 70s. Yeah. Quickly became my dear friend and saw that I was struggling in the 70s when I was trying to come out. And he drugged me out. I'd sit in his house, Donna would be in bed with their 2 kids, and Ron would be like trying to whip me into shape. And I said, I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do. This is when bars didn't have windows, that didn't have signs. We didn't know where to go. I didn't have any idea how to become a gay person. And he said, well, I'll teach you. He wasn't gay. So he researched it. He took me to my first bar. He found the old Kismet. Remember the Kismet?
Oh, yeah.
He took me there. I walked in. I was terrified and excited at men dancing together. I'd never seen it before. And who was the first man I ever danced with? Him. The legitimacy that this gave me, as I was trying to struggle to go forward with my life, I'll never thank you enough for it. So thank you. A law professor, a domestic relations judge, and been in private practice for how many years? And getting ready to retire.
Yes.
I
want to tell you something about Scot Dewhirst. He was a student of mine. He and 2 other students.
And he gave me CDs, by the way.
You should have studied. But Scott and 2 other classmates decided to go into practice together, and they asked me if I could kind of be involved. And I certainly was, because they were 3 special people. And then Scott had something to tell us. And
I wouldn't tell him.
yeah, and it was, well, let me say this. This is one of the bravest people on the face of the earth.
And finally, and I'm saying finally, two special people, Carla and Linda Schultz. They just spent the last 2 weeks on an African picture safari and flew in this morning after a 24-hour flight, and they're here. Long term, how long have you been together? 23 years together. Yeah. Carla, Executive Director of Stonewall for 12 years. Linda, the Chair of and Taskmaster of the Gay Parade for 22 years. She looks quiet. You ever see her with a bullhorn out in the middle of the street? She whips that parade this year with 700,000 people, and she keeps it running smoothly. Nobody, I think, exemplifies our community by their relationship, by their work, by their giving to our community than these two ladies. Carla, thank you, and I don't think anybody has recognized you yet for your years of service to Stonewall, and this building would not be here without you. There's wonderful new leadership now, and Linda, everything you have done in supporting Carla and doing everything that you have done, a founding member of the Legacy Fund, a board member of the Legacy Fund, you know, your community work has been exemplary, and you two are just amazing people. So thank you for everything that you've done. These are my peers. I'm being honored tonight. These are the people that have done it for the past 20, 30, 40 or more years. We're getting tired. And we're also being delegitimized to a certain degree now. You've all read about, you know, the challenges that there are now between the younger community. And I will be perfectly honest, I invited some young people to come to this event, and they refused. Not because they were against Legacy, but because they're still angry at Stonewall. Because they don't feel like Stonewall responded properly, which I disagree with, to some of the events that occurred a couple years ago. It shows the challenge that we're facing right now between the trans community, the African American community, and there are challenges that we need to fight. And, you know, I thought, what do I propose? Do I say, let's do a mentor program, we mentor? Well, that'd be the worst thing in the world. They don't want us as their mentors. You know, they want to change what we to get us to where we're at, to build this building, and we're proud of that. And we should be proud of that. And you should be proud of that. But it doesn't mean that there isn't change, and that we've got to recognize change, and we've got to evolve. And I might put out a challenge, you know, and especially, and I don't control anything with Legacy anymore, but gee, some of you funders out there, maybe put in a grant to Legacy or other organizations to bridge the gap. How do we do that? In a way that recognizes the legitimacy of the old guard and the new guard, and figures out a way to do this so that we can come together again and be a strong, cohesive community, because we've got battles to fight still. And the battles are out there all over again. So that's the challenge I think I leave us, as far as you're most of the old guard. Thank you, new people who are here. And how are we going to approach this as we go forward? Jimmy, you forward. I'm honored. I'm humbled to be here. I thank all my... I'm nothing without all of you. You're all my dear friends. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of your evening.